Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my YouTube channel, the School of Love. My name is Maria, and I am helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. From the very beginning, I must emphasize the fact that this channel is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. If you are new to the channel, at this moment I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very, very much. This helps us not only with the mysterious algorithm which seems to dominate the YouTube galaxy, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. With that being said, let's dive right into today's topic, which is what to do when you are the toxic person in a specific interaction. This is a very sensitive topic, I know, and might trigger many of you, or many among you. Nevertheless, it is an important topic, and this is why I address it. So what is a toxic person? Or what are toxic people? In today's video, I'm going to start off with the definition of what toxicity in humans is, then deliver five mini ideas, 5 mini guidelines or mini principles on how to heal from being a toxic person. Usually, generally speaking, when we refer to toxic people, we always assume that the others are the toxic ones. And as it happens, there is a famous book. As it happens, in this famous book, I refer to The Asshole Survival Guide by Professor Sutton, I think, from Stanford or Princeton University. He highlights from the very beginning, he talks from the very beginning in that book that when you constantly attract people who are toxic, or in his words, assholes, or when you constantly find yourself being surrounded by assholes, new or old, it makes sense once in a while to ask yourself whether you might not be the toxic person or the asshole himself or herself, and do something about it. So usually it is uncomfortable to talk about oneself being toxic, and I've been there, done that, so I know what I'm talking about. I know how frustrating it is to go through life with the blinders on and always thinking in terms of, oh my God, I am so much the victim and nobody really cares about me, and I always find myself in complicated situations or in toxic situations with complicated people or with toxic people. But what if, for once, and exceptionally, we just look into the mirror and ask ourselves these questions, or ask myself these questions. What if I am actually the toxic person? So what is a toxic person? A toxic person is someone who simply creates a state of being unwell, both to himself or herself, so both to oneself and to those around himself or herself. And so it's not something you can hide, and it is not something you can get rid of unless, and this is the first step, you become aware of. This is it's so important sometimes to stop, to smell the flowers, to watch the butterflies, and to ask yourself, what the hell am I doing in this world? Why have I come? And why am I alive? What is my purpose? Do I have a purpose in this world? And if not, let's go and find one. And awareness is, in my opinion, 95-97% in any process, in any protocol of healing. Rather than asking the others and blaming the others and guilt-tripping the others and making others feel uncomfortable because we feel so bad about ourselves, it really helps to ask yourself, maybe it is me. Maybe it is me who attracts problematic people. And in that case, in case it is me, why is that happening to me? And the answer is almost always because I am part of the problem, if not the problem itself, and not part of the solution or the solution itself. And so awareness is crucial in this process, in this journey of healing and improvement. And the journey of healing and improvement is not something we do because we are willing to do it. It's actually an obligation towards ourselves and towards the others, particularly towards those we profess to love and to care about. If we are not well ourselves, if we are in a unhappy place in our lives, those around us, particularly our children, the young ones, they will see it, they will emulate it, they will empathize with it, and it will ruin their lives. So it is very important then that once in a while, particularly in sticky situations, and particularly when we find ourselves repeatedly in sticky situations, that we stop, watch the stars in all honesty, in all vulnerability, and ask ourselves, is it me, the toxic one? So awareness is the first step and is the most important, absolutely the most important. Without awareness, without self-awareness, we cannot do anything in order to start healing and in order to start moving forward toward a better place to live our lives. And the second step, once we have become aware that we might be at least part of the problem, if not the problem itself, the second step is to identify the trigger. What exactly makes us to be toxic? Under which circumstances are we more toxic than other circumstances, respectively with what people? And at which times? There are some couple of variables when it comes to being toxic, to human toxicity. One is the people we surround ourselves with, the other one is the situations we put ourselves in, and the third one is times, the time in our lives, or either during the day or on a larger scale like weeks or months. Maybe physiological reasons turn us into little monsters once in a while. Maybe lack of sleep. So in the morning we're kind of grumpy, in the evening we're also kind of insufferable to be around. Or when we're hungry, or when we are hungry, which is a combination of being angry because you are actually hungry, or when we have experienced a setback at work or in public, even a small one might trigger being or becoming really impossible to be around or to be with. So it's very important to identify the triggers, or my favorite one, the people we surround ourselves with. There are people who really bring out the worst in ourselves. And of course, there are also people who bring the best in ourselves. But it's very important to identify which is which. Who makes us want to be better? Who makes us better in the first place? And who makes us simply hate everything and everyone, and also behave in a manner that makes everything and everyone hate us. It's very important to identify the trigger. So it could be circumstances, it could be moments in time, or it could be persons. In my case, very often is actually the persons I'm surrounding with, and then there is a snowball effect of circumstances and moments where I used to, not anymore, I used to be an absolutely impossible person to be around. And once you have identified the trigger, so person, circumstances, moments in time, it's important. The third step is to identify the payoff, the reward. What the positive dimension of being a toxic person? There is always some sort of reward. Maybe there's some sort of that after being toxic and after making everyone feel bad around you, you have a feeling of I can be really good, or when maybe you extract some sort of validation or confirmation from being a naughty person, and then um, forcing the others to cater to your needs. Maybe um, when you were toxic, let's say you're passive aggressive, one of the most toxic behavior, if there is any, if there is one, is being passive aggressive and being indirect, or um, forcing other people in situations where they have essentially no choice than to do what you want them to do. This is called, Robert Greene calls this in his book, the 48 Strategies of War. He calls this putting the other person or the other persons in front of a fait accompli, or something like accomplished fact. So you push them and push the buttons until they are in a situation in which, until they are essentially in a dead end road. And then they have to do whatever you want them to do. This is very toxic, exactly like passive aggressive behavior, or indirect behavior, ambivalent, ambiguous behavior, or statements where you say one thing but you mean another, and you leave the other person wondering what exactly do they mean, because their gestures, their behavior, and what they say are two major continuous contradictions. This is a way of controlling the others, of controlling the situation. It's absolutely toxic. Don't do it. If you do it, learn not to do it anymore. But there is always a payoff. What I mean is that there is always a payoff. Validation, confirmation. This means because everybody, those around you, feel forced, feel compelled to cater to your needs, so that you're not so toxic anymore. Or some sort of power. You're controlling the others by means of being, as I said, passive aggressive, or putting them in front of accomplished situations, accomplished facts, or simply being giving them the cold shoulder, the silent treatment. This is also one of my favorite. I'm not good at doing that, but I've been on the receiving side of it. So on the receiving end of it, so I know how bad it feels. Again, this is controlling the situation, controlling the others by delivering negative emotion, negative outputs. It's totally toxic, but there is a reward for it. Identify the reward, identify the payoff, and then find a healthy way to deal both with the trigger, both with the toxic persons, and with the lack of reward which comes from being toxic. There will be a sense of loss, there will be a sense of lack once you start improving and start replacing toxic behaviors with actually healthier behaviors. You won't be able to replace all of them at the same time. You won't be able to replace all of them equally throughout, so in time, but starting small. For instance, stop lying, or as Jordan Peterson says it, if you cannot stop lying, at least if you say the truth. If you cannot say the truth, if this is too high or too much, then at least stop lying. And in time, learn to say at least small truth. Nobody says to expose yourself to everyone, but learning at least to refrain from lying, and then learning to be honest, is already a huge step. So find a healthy way to deal with the triggers. For instance, if those around you are negative triggers, or bringing the worst in you, either cut them off completely at once or gradually. This is actually the healthiest way. Or reduce the amount of time or the amount of interaction with them at a minimum. The less the better. You cannot change them, you cannot improve them, you cannot serve as a role model, you cannot help them, you cannot force them to follow. No. Unless someone really wants to change something, there's absolutely no way to change someone from the outside. To force them into change, to force them into betterment, to force them into becoming greater themselves. No way. This does not work. It never works. It has never worked, and it will never work. Change starts from within. If the subject, if the person, him or herself, wants to start changing, wants to fulfill the journey, wants to step on the journey of self-improvement or self-betterment or not. And 5, The fifth step, which is often overlooked, is to do your best to become grateful for that lesson, for the lesson that you were able to, you were given that insight, the strength, and the courage, the courage to see the toxicity in you, to face the toxicity in you, and to address it, to heal it. Be grateful for that lesson. Be grateful for the insight. Be grateful for who you are, and treat the others with compassion, particularly those who actually cannot come with you, those who prefer, for whatever reasons, their decision in a state of toxicity and not unwell-being, rather than moving forward the way you did. So develop great gratitude towards who you are now, and towards those wounds which you had to heal in order to become who you are. And then develop compassion towards those around you. Accept them for who they are in a radical manner, but at the same time, keep your distance. Do not allow them to ruin your life again, or to control your life, or to try to exert some sort of control over your life in a manner similar to the past. So thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for your interest in becoming a better person. I'm looking forward to welcoming you here back again. And as always, love and peace to you all.